So we earlier discussed the handling of fruits and vegetables. Now let's talk about refrigerated storage of fruits and vegetables. And as I said that most of the industrialized countries or developed countries have developed these systems for proper storage of fruits and vegetables, and they are available year round because of these factors, and they are minimum losses in the product as well as in the quality. So let's talk about how we actually refrigerate these fruits and vegetables in an industrial setup to minimize losses and improve the keeping quality of these products. So this is very common way to increase the shelf life of perishable food if we can store them under refrigerated conditions. And these refrigerated conditions can be given in different places. For example, they could be cold storage rooms, but it is also important or equally important that when these fruits or vegetables, when they are transported in the trailers or when they are transported through transocean shipments, they must also be maintained at these refrigerated temperatures. So this development in industrialized country have actually improved the keeping quality and shelf life of these products, because not only we can store these fruits and vegetables in the cold store rooms, but also during the entire supply chain this cold temperature can be maintained, and that would be actually enhancing the shelf life of these products for a very long time. So we'll discuss how we actually can achieve this kind of refrigerated storage and what are the precautions needed for this kind of transport or transported refrigerated fruits and vegetables. So as you might be aware that by saying that the entire supply chain, they must be stored at lower temperature at all times. So if you look at this refrigerated transport of fruits and vegetables, and this is an example of a trailer in which you can see it has an evaporator on its very left side, a compressor and condenser, they are there, and then we have a fan that would be circulating this cool air throughout these products. So after this fan, there is a supply of air temperature sensor. So air temperature sensor would actually look at whether the fan is functioning and the air is properly passing through or not. Then we have the different airflow directions that would be making sure that this air passes through every particle of these fruits and vegetables uniformly, and it can cool down it uniformly. So as you can see, there are no obstruction to the flow of air in this system. Then we have central loading, airflow between load and sideways as well, so the air can freely flow throughout this system. Then at the end we have return air temperature sensor. So that return air temperature sensor would also see whether the temperature of circulating air has been dropped or not. If it's not dropped, it means that the air has not passed through this material effectively. So because ideally speaking, the fresh air that is passed, fresh cold air that is passed through this produce, when it goes towards the end, the temperature must be somewhat lesser than the initial temperature. So it would be constantly measuring and sensing that whether these refrigerated conditions are controlled or not. So it's the uniform heat distribution within the trailer that must be made sure, and we should make sure that all the regions get the circulation of air properly and heat is properly removed from these materials. So this demonstration tells you that how refrigerated conditions are maintained within these trailers during transport of these products from one place to another. So as I said that these temperature control are very important, and this is actually the success of most of the modern system of refrigeration and distribution, storage, maintenance, that we can have these products for a longer time. The shelf life is longer and the quality is maintained for a longer time. So we have all these temperature sensors and controllers that would be automatically controlling the temperature of the product based on the air that is exiting from the system, and that would be calculating how much cooling is further needed to maintain that low temperature. So as I said, this maintenance of temperature, normally they are thermostat, and the systems are within the range of 0.5 degrees C for long-term storage of fruits and vegetables. So this is the margin of 0.5 degrees C that is allowable or acceptable for these long-time storage. Then the temperature normally at which these products are frozen, this is set at minus 18 degrees C or even colder than this. At the same time, when we load, as I said, that whether these products would be in the cold storage or whether they should be in the supply chain, or even at the time end display, these products are kept at low temperature. But in case of loading, we have to also make sure that the temperature is not higher than minus 12 degrees C, so that the quality and shelf life can be maintained at this stage. Another consideration while transporting these fruits and vegetables is that when we mix two different types of fruits and vegetables, or maybe more than that, we have to look at whether they are compatible with each other or not, because every fruit product or a vegetable product would have a desirable temperature range in which it would have longer shelf life. And ethylene sensitivity, as I discussed, there may be fruits which are more sensitive to ethylene than others, so we should not mix them together, because that would interfere with the ripening process as well as shelf life process, and eventually it would lead to the losses in the end product, which is not desirable after having all these systems in place for maintaining low temperature. So again, if you look at what are the checklist for trailer conditions to maintain these temperatures, so there can be different. So if we can start from very left side, we have to look at the inside height. It should be sufficient for load, and then inside width should be sufficient for load of these products. They should not be touching at the top or the side walls or the container. There must be floor drain as well, and these floor drain, the floor must be clean and dry at all time, because this moisture can harbor pathogens or spoilage microorganisms as well. Then the door that we have, it should have a tight seal, so that there is no loss of this cold air or the low temperature is maintained. Similarly, there must be side doors. They should have also tight seals that are maintained very properly. Then air chutes are also attached to the ceilings to maintain these air pressures, and there must be pressure bulkhead should also be there. So this is the checklist for trailer conditions before we load any produced into these trailers, that they must be checked before doing the loading operations. So if we talk about long distance shipping, because normally these fresh produce have to travel very long distances as well, so we have to look at that the vibration damage are minimum, because if there is more vibration within these vehicles, that is going to damage your product. And especially if we have certain trailers that have got suspended spring suspended axles, there would be more vibration in these products. So this vibration can damage the products inside. So if we have to avoid this damage that happens to these fresh produce from vibration, one of the best mechanism or the approach is to minimize the intermaterial spaces. So if there is a minimum space between these materials, that would mean that there would be lesser hitting and bouncing between those produce, and the product would not have injury, and it would not be spoiled quickly, and the quality losses would be reduced. So this is how we make sure that products they must be refrigerated, how we use different vehicles, and what are the parameters that must be considered for transport of these fresh produced from farm till they are consumed in the towards the end user.